Hi, everyone. Welcome to Girl Scouts of Silver Sage. This is our Cookie Bites episode number 4, where we're going to be talking about setting goals. Please welcome Kim Husin, who is on with us from Houston. And I am Kim Ross. I am the Cookie Monster here at Girl Scouts of Silver Sage. And we are going to take a quick look at our agenda for our next slide, please. So we're going to talk about what troops can do, which is an exciting part of setting your goals, is deciding what is possible and what you'd like to do. We'll talk about travel progression. Progression is something that's important in our council for a lot of different things, including the entrepreneurship programs, making sure that there are age and maturity appropriate things for girls to select from. We'll talk about how to budget and how to make it happen, turning those dreams into reality. We'll also talk about parent involvement and how important that is in all of our Girl Scout programming. And we'll also talk about the importance of individual goals. We may not go in this order, so please jump on with us and enjoy our presentation. I will hand it over to Kim H. for all of the different exciting possibilities that your girls can reach for this year.
One of the goals that can be set is a troop goal. Troops can choose to set this goal for whatever it is the girls are interested in doing. This could be some kind of field trip. There's a whole bunch of different examples, and this is only what my brain could think of. There are so many more. Maybe taking a trip to the planetarium, or going bowling, or maybe going swimming. All of those different things are kind of like field trip activities, like day trip sort of ideas. Then they could also possibly do an overnight. A lot of different zoos and aquariums have the ability to do an overnight inside the facility. They've got camping they can do. You can always rent out part of one of our camp properties to go and do a camp out. They do camping at state parks or cabin camping at state parks. One of my favorite things when I was a girl is we went and we did an overnight at a horse ranch. And so we got to do horseback riding coupled with the just different, uh, not skill building,
Team building?
team building. Thank you. Different team building activities that go along with, just being on an overnight with your Girl Scout troop. And I don't know about the museums out here, but again, I'm originally from Chicago, and I know that all of the museums in Chicago offer overnight opportunities. So like you could stay overnight at the Shedd Aquarium or the Field Museum and the planetarium, and things like that. And that was something that was something that was available for you to do as an individual or as a troop. There's also travel opportunities, and we'll talk a lot about the travel opportunities throughout the rest of the slides as well. Going out of state to a national park, or maybe going to Savannah, Georgia for a Girl Scout birthplace trip. Maybe a big city adventure like traveling to New York or Chicago or Nashville and seeing some of those things that that big city is known for. Then there's always amusement parks, water parks, going to a Hall of Fame of any kind, anywhere. I've known Girl Scout troops who have done cruises or they've traveled internationally with their troops. We also have a program called Girl Scout Destinations, which is travel for older girls, cadets through ambassadors, primarily seniors and ambassadors. And these are the opportunities for them to take a international trip with other Girl Scouts in other councils. And actually these trips are recommended for them to not take a friend with. So that way they reach out, they meet new people that maybe have a different, story than they do because they grew up in a different area.
I also want to jump in and share one great thing that's happening this particular year. Every 3 years, so that's kind of like a triennium. Every triennium, we have the Girl Scout National Convention. In 2026, that is going to be taking place in our nation's capital in Washington, D.C. And so that is another opportunity that your girls can choose from this year.
Yes. Now, are these activities all that you can do? Absolutely not. The only limitation to what your girls can decide to do is their drive and their imagination.
And
And
what's
a
safe?
little bit of safety. Yes, and a little bit of safety. But a lot of activities are approved for safety within certain parameters. So what can you do? Again, how is it planned? This Girl Scouts is girl led. So the girls should be the one choosing what they want to do. Troop leaders can do this in a couple of ways. One, they could just kind of take notes on what they hear the girls talking about. How often do they, like, we're working on a project and they talk about riding horses or traveling on a train or going to see where the president lives? Like, what do they talk about amongst themselves when they're working on other things? That's always a great opportunity for that troop leader to kind of pick little bits of that conversation to kind of figure out what they might be interested in doing, to have ideas to present to them. This is really helpful at those Brownie and Daisy levels where a lot of it is a little bit more parent help to go into some of those trips. They can also take a survey of the girls. I know I did that in my troop. We did a survey the one year on how we wanted to spend our cookie proceeds, and my girls voted on doing a Build-A-Bear party, which was super fun. Totally recommend that. And so that was what we did that year to celebrate selling cookies. Again, we're reminding everyone that it does need to be girl-led. The activities should be identified by the girls and voted upon or agreed upon by the group as a whole. Is every girl going to be on board with an idea? No. Were my cadets on board with going to Build-A-Bear? Not really. Did they go? Yes. Do they still have fun? Yes. But not every girl is going to agree. But for the most part, it should be majority rule for what the troop decides to do as that goal. Now, is this activity age appropriate? GSUSA has an entire array of safety checkpoints on things that the girls might want to do. Do they want to do archery? Is it available? Absolutely. Is it age restricted? Also, absolutely. Archery is typically limited to juniors or cadets and above, with certain, again, safety parameters and a certain number of adults involved. Could they go swim with dolphins? Could they do a skydive simulation? These are all, believe it or not, included in those safety checkpoints as activities that the girls might possibly want to do. This book is huge, but it covers so much. Rule of thumb, if there's a badge for it, it is probably age appropriate. Is horseback riding appropriate for daisies? Not really, but it's more appropriate for juniors. They have a badge for it. Again, is archery appropriate for daisies and brownies? Probably not really, but cadets have a badge for it, so definitely would be age appropriate there. And then the next slide we'll take a look at is going to go over the GSUSA travel progression and recommended activities for that. So we'll touch base on that in a second. Then another little bit, which we'll also talk about later, is how do we fund it? So this can be done in a couple of different things. One is the fall product program, where the troops earn $1 per nut or chocolate item and $3 per Max and More item. And then there's also a bonus amount that they can earn. There's the cookie program, where troops can earn anywhere from 70 cents to 85 cents per package of cookies sold. And then they can also do other fundraisers as long as they have participated in either the fall product or the cookie program. Alternate fundraisers are totally appropriate, again, within certain parameters. Typically, those are not available to daisies and brownies, but the older girls, 100%, they're the ones that are going to be doing a little bit more of the traveling or their silver awards or gold awards, in which case alternate fundraising, 100% appropriate. That is also outlined in our troop fundraising procedures, which is available on the Silver Sage website. It is under I think, the member section, and then there's a volunteer section, which is forms and documents, or forms and activities. And that is where you'll find those documents under the finance section. So the troop fundraising procedures outlines everything that they can do, can't do, and how to go about it. And then there is an application for a troop money earning project. A lot of them do need to be approved through council, and sending that form to customer care is how you would get that approved.
I wanted to pop into, I have another recommendation for folks, and that is if you're going to be doing any sort of troop travel, there are also some forms there that need to be submitted to
Yes.
customer care well in advance, because they need to make sure that there are appropriate people who are trained in first aid, or drivers have their driver's licenses and insurance and all sorts of things. So please do make sure you're looking for that troop travel or troop activity form and complete it in plenty of time.
Yes. Also, that is all in that member section on the website in one of the drop downs for travel. So here's a look at that travel progression. Again, this is something that is provided from GSUSA. So this is not just what we in, Silver Stage Council in Southern Idaho feel that is acceptable for the girls at each level. This is brought on nationally. So this is for all Girl Scout levels across the whole country. And these are the minimum requirements for traveling. There might be other factors as well. So other factors might include the girls' comfort traveling with their troop volunteers and troop leaders, the girls' comfort level with being without a parent or caregiver, because some of these travels and overnights or, short trips, they may not have their parent able to go with them. And then also one of the, stumbling blocks my daughter's troop came into last year was the parents' comfort level and the girl being away without them. Each of those things are, going to differ per girl. And, depends on exactly what, level of travel she has done in her personal life, in addition to her age. So for daisies and brownies, it's recommended to stay local. You can do a local field trip, a day trip. When they get a little bit older, you can take those, brownies and give them an overnight, like the zoo or the aquarium or something nearby. Juniors can then, take on the short trip. So you would stay within the state, and maybe a couple of hours of driving. What does this say? Up to 6 hours drive from home. So can't quite take them up to Canada, but you probably could take them real close.
Mm-hmm.
And then for cadets, seniors, and ambassadors, they can go on those extended trips. So they can go throughout the country, travel to another state. They can travel, seniors and ambassadors can travel internationally. And then they can also travel independently with those Girl Scout destinations. Next. So next, there's a little bit about budgeting. I do have a couple of the next slides kind of go over an example budget that was actually presented to my daughter's troop when we were trying to plan a bridging ceremony last year. So when you start to build that budget, first I'm going to sidetrack and go to the bottom of my photo. Each level of Girl Scouting has a financial literacy and budgeting badges. Many of these badges involve helping to plan a trip. So if you are planning a trip, it might be a great time to build that badge into your programming and let the girls help build the budget. In which you want to make sure you research the cost of your activity or activities. If you're going on a weekend trip and there's multiple things that they can do multiple activities. They just need to make sure they budget for it. Make sure that you account for any accommodations for overnights, any flight, gas, vehicle rental, food for both the girls and the chaperones, And then you'll also want to make sure you add a small buffer for price changes and unexpected expenses. Hate to have anyone like break down and you need to call for a tow truck and not have budgeted for, something like that. So having a little bit of wiggle room is definitely helpful. Even if that's just taking your, $95 ticket and rounding it up to 100 or 120, just to accommodate that little bit of buffer. So other things to consider is, does your troop have funds to start with? If your troop has been established for a few years, they might have a couple, $100,000 that they've been saving to go on a big trip. That can help offset the cost to, parents or things like that. Additionally, can the parents help offset the costs? This may not be possible for all families, but it can be an ask that is made. This could be not just necessarily, hey, parents, I need you to pay $100 towards the girls' trip. It could be, can somebody volunteer their vehicle and drive us there? Can somebody, get a gift card for, a tank of gas? Could they donate snacks or food towards, the trip so that we're not, constantly stopping at the gas station buying some snacks because, we've got a 6-hour road trip ahead of us. All of those different kinds of things can, help offset that cost without necessarily, dipping into another family's budget if they just don't have that up front. Okay, so like I said, a couple examples from my daughter for her bridging trip. The main idea was to go to San Francisco and go to have our bridging ceremony on or near the Golden Gate Bridge. This trip was planned for 5 girls and 5 adults. And so they factored in flights, a hotel stay. Also, instead of staying at a hotel, they, looked at different like Airbnbs or this VRBO. Then we also factored in food, and food was an estimate. We figured we probably would be under that, but they figured budget high. So that way we make sure that we account for all of the different girls and meals and any sort of dietary restrictions that might be a little bit more expensive than, someone else. And then we broke it down by total and then by person. We also assumed with all of this that every adult was going to be paying their own way and the troop would just be paying for the girls. The other option that we had, since San Francisco is not super far away, was the option to rent a van and drive it, which would have saved a little bit on the travel and airfare. The next, one of the other options that they had like 6 or 7 options, but one of the other options they had, which is actually the one they ended up choosing, was going to Roaring Springs for a day. Again, this was originally planned to be for 5 girls and 5 adults. So they had 2 different options. They could do just the day pass to Roaring Springs and go to the water park all day. Made sure to factor in food in there, gave them a total. And then, or they had the option to do a partial day at the water park and then a partial day over at Wahoo's, which is actually the choice they ended up making. And they loved it. So, however, I also know that this trip, while realistic for our area, not real. I did factor it in if you were coming from the other side of the state, just so you did have an example of that as well. So finding a hotel room for like a weekend trip, and then or the option of an Airbnb. We also have the option, if you're coming towards the Boise area, to rent out Friendship Square. There is a Girl Scout specific rate if you're having a Girl Scout event there. And sometimes I feel like our leaders don't always know this, so I wanted to make sure that that was on here as an option. If it is during like the summer or whatever, it may not be available due to Camp Echo, but if you're coming in a little bit of the off season or right before the season where to start, as long as it's available, it can be an option. And then we have on there a van rental. I had also put flight information on here initially and then realized that the van rental was just going to be so much better that putting that on there wasn't worth it. Uh, and then putting in there the Triple the Fun Pass, which is a full day at Roaring Springs, and then day 2 would be done at Wahoo's, so it's meant to be a weekend trip. Factored in food, 10 meals at about $15 per person per meal, to give you your total. And then again, if this is gonna be for 10 people, break it down by person. So that way, you know, if you're having your adults pay their own way, how much they need to cover. All right, so a little bit more about raising funds. A lot of this was on the last slide. I talked about this, but that fall product program, last year troops on average earned $200 in the program. They do get a 15-cent bonus if their per girl average of participating girls is 45 items or more. And then the cookie program last year, troops earned an average of $2,200. Again, those proceeds are tiered, so they go anywhere from 70 cents to 85 cents per package based on the participating girl PGA. So if your girls only sell, I think it's like 325 packages per girl, you'll end up with that 70 cents. But if they go bananas and they do really well, or they have a high goal, or they've got a big trip they're planning for, they can get up to that 85 cents per package if they have a troop PGA of 500 or more. Then I put some ideas on here for some alternate fundraisers. So you could do something like a cakewalk or a bake sale. One of the suggestions that was given to our girls for fundraising was a dinners to go. They could do yard work, yard help, raking leaves, pulling weeds, shoveling snow, depending on what area you're in. Any sort of craft sales. I know a girl that was making and selling jewelry to help fund her Gold Award project. You could do a community like spaghetti dinner or pancake breakfast. I think we typically see those more done for like veterans organizations, or we see them done with Boy Scouts, but they're still completely possible for the Girl Scouts to do as well. Put them on the exact same way. Another thing is to do badge workshops. You could do this whether it's, just in your service unit and do them locally, or doing them over Zoom and doing them as a virtual badge workshop, and allowing other councils, other families, other Girl Scouts to participate in them that way. I had my daughter participate in a few of those, and that was to help a troop of ambassadors fund an international travel trip that they were taking. So that is something that's also available as an alternate fundraiser. Couple things to note with those, that if doing anything for like yard work or whatever, girls are not supposed to operate power tools. And if you're doing anything with making or serving food, at least one adult must have a Serve Safe certification. You can do it online. It's $15, takes about an hour. So that is something else that is important to have if those are something you are going to do. Kim, did you want to take away this one?
Oh, I love individual goals. Thank you,
Yes.
Kim. So one of the things that dovetails into what your troops goal is, and breaking down the troop goal into how many packages on average for each girl that they'll need, you'll also need to have each girl set her individual goal. Maybe that is let's take, for example, the 325 boxes. Maybe that's the average that each girl needs to sell, and that's her goal. But she can also look at the rewards card and see what she wants to earn. So it may be that she wants to hit the level for the stuffy. It may be that she wants to be one of the 3 top entrepreneurs in the whole council, and anywhere in between. So her goal is great. I know a lot of girls that want to sell 1,000, for example. Well, that's awesome. and also may not be something that your family can accommodate. So you'll want to make sure that her goal is something that you as a parent look at and decide that that is okay. That might not be something that your family can do at this time. But what you'll want to make sure you evaluate is whether or not she'll be able to do booths. Can you give her a ride? Can you stay and supervise the booth? Do you have a large workplace, or do you know someone with a large workplace that you can have her order card? Do you have a lot of personal friends and acquaintances? Will an email or social media post get traction because you know a lot of people or not? Also, if you can assist her by prepping at home, that's also great. Can she multiply by 6 when she's at a cookie booth? Count back change, practice her pitch or her ask to customers. And then I have always, when I was a girl setting my cookie goals, I always liked having it in an understandable, achievable chunk. So is a 6-year-old really going to understand the work required to do, 1,000 or 2,000 packages? My guess is no. But if you take some time with her and explain, look, if you want to get 1,000, that means you're doing a booth every, Saturday and Sunday during cookie season. That's 8 booths. Yes, I think you could do 1,000 with just 8 booths. And is that something your family can accommodate? Is that something that she wants to do? Or does she have other plans over some of those weekends? Is your family taking a vacation? Those are all things that we want to make sure that you're able to take into account, because we don't want the cookie program to be burdensome on any families or any volunteers. So please understand that we want you to work within your means and interest level and effort level. It also does happen during the winter. So if in, late February or early to mid March, your family is up on the ski hill, that's delightful, and also may affect her ability to sell the amount of cookies that she wants. So again, if you're able to break those goals into achievable chunks, and maybe you do it, by every 3 days she has to knock on 10 doors, or every week she has to do 4 booths in order to make that possible. That's great. And the other thing that's fun to do too is to make sure that you're kind of measuring towards her goals. You might use a thermometer, that's popular. Or if you have, each 200 packages is a cookie on the fridge and she gets to pull off a cookie every time she gets one, whatever it is that makes it fun for your girl. And then additionally, adjusting to her success as she succeeds. So if, for example, you have estimated 200 packages for one booth and she has a real bunch of success because she is going up and approaching every customer as they leave Albertsons, for example, then adjust her goal, or she's able to adjust her goal. Maybe she now that she has tried the cookie program and absolutely loves it like I did, maybe you ask her if she thinks maybe she wants to do 8 booths or 12 booths or whatever instead of what was originally planned. So do communicate with her throughout the program and make sure she is still engaged, still wants to achieve her goal, and adjust as things change. One thing I did want to share regarding our reward program for our cookies, there we have a sheet, we call it our rewards card, and that goes over each prize or reward that she can earn at each level. And those prizes or things or experiences that are on that order card are in addition to program credits. So a girl can earn, if she sells 2,500 packages, she can earn $870 in program credits, plus all the prizes that go up to that. So again, the program credits are in addition to the goodies. All right, back to you, Kim.
Yeah, so I just wanted to add a little bit also on the, adjusting for her goal is sometimes you might get partway through there and the girl, you and your girl might realize that, man, that goal of 3,000 packages of cookies is just not going to happen. And which that happened to my daughter last year. So we had to make an adjustment, and it was she had a couple of booths that just did not, hit the average that that we were estimating for. And so we had to make an adjustment, and she had to in order to achieve her goal of going on the Council Disney trip, she had to take some of the extra, bonus adventure credits that she was originally planning on taking a reward from. So we had to kind of make an adjustment, and adjustments to your goals, totally fine. It's doable. If, it's that process of setting the goal and getting there or getting towards it, and then maybe having to adjust it. Maybe it's adjusting it higher because maybe, her goal was to get the stuffy, and she has just done amazing and been able to go to some extra booths and things like that she didn't think she was going to be able to go to originally. And now she can get up to, 1,000 packages of cookies and get one of the cool rewards that's up there. So making those adjustments is, it's part of goal setting.
Thank you for sharing that. It sure is.
Yeah. So also, we've mentioned a few times, parents need to be involved and on board also. Not only do they need to be on board with the individual cookie goals of the girls, they have to be on board with the trip if the troop is taking a trip. Like a troop of cadets can't plan a trip to Disneyland if the parents either won't chaperone or if too many parents are interested in chaperoning or insist on chaperoning. Adults might have to pay for their portion if they're not a required chaperone. Trips must conform to all GSUSA safety standards and the adult-youth ratios. That's why the chart's on here. These are, again, minimum requirements, but also to remember that this is a trip for the girls. Other than the 2 required adults to go to a Girl Scout, event or thing, the troop should not be paying for additional unrequired adults. If you have a girl who has a disability, like she has a wheelchair or a walker or something like that, that might be a required adult, just so that she has her, ADA accommodation. But if you've got a group of, cadets and you've got 5 of them, they are fully within that ratio to only have 2 adults going, because you don't need an additional volunteer until you have 10 girls. Once you have 11 girls going, you need a 3rd adult. Also a reminder, all of these adults need to be registered Girl Scout members, and they need to go through our background check process in order to go on these events and trips. Another thing troops can decide to do is to verify girl participation in a big troop or a big event. The troops can request that a small portion is paid by parents. It gives parents a little bit of risk so that if they can't follow through on getting their girl to the event or to the trip, and the troop has now paid for the girl to go, there's a little bit of, funds that the parent have provided that say, okay, well, now my girl can't go, so you're not out the full amount of money that, was slotted for my daughter. Also, the troop could request a deposit, whether, it's refundable or non-refundable is up to them. But if they do a refundable deposit, that would be returned after the trip occurs. So for example, when my daughter's troop decided they wanted to try to go to San Francisco for their bridging ceremony, they set a goal that each of the 2nd-year juniors were going to sell 1,000 packages of cookies. And then the parents were also required to front a $200 deposit, which if the girl then didn't sell 1,000 packages of cookies, like, we had set forth, that $200 would go towards her portion of the trip. If she did sell that 1,000, that would be returned, or it would go towards the parent portion of the trip because the parents had to pay their own way. So that is something that troops can do as well. So parents don't feel like, oh, my troop is asking for all of this money. They're not necessarily asking for the money because, they don't want the troop to fund the trip. They're asking for it so that you'll make sure your girl goes on the trip. I've seen and heard it across multiple troops across multiple councils that my troop planned this trip, and then we paid, $100 for 10 girls to go, and then only 5 showed up. But I paid $100 for their tickets, and I can't get a refund on those tickets. So that it's an important part of the budgeting for the troop. Additionally, all of the troop funds are funds for the girls. So if you say you're going to go on a trip, the leader pays $100 for the girl to go, and then she, can't go for whatever reason. Now that the troop, your daughter and the rest of the girls are out $100 because your girl was not able to go on that trip. That was paid for by the troop already. So all the funds do belong to the girls, and they are to provide, experiences and trips and travel and things for them. Another thing to remember with troop trips is that these are trips for the girls. It is not a vacation for the chaperones that are going. So even though the Girl Scouts might be going on a cruise, that is still the adult chaperones that go for, the ratio for the supervision. They're there to supervise the Girl Scouts that they brought with them. They're not there to take a vacation. Do they get to enjoy it and have fun? Yes, but it's not their vacation, and the girls and their activities are priority on these trips.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, as per usual, if you have any questions, you can reach either one of us, Kim's, at customer care or through customer care. And you can reach the website or the email shown, or you can give us a call, and our lovely customer care team will, be there to answer.
It's terrific.
It is.
Yep, please don't hesitate. Anytime you have a question, we're delighted to answer it for you. And if you have a question, more than likely someone else has a similar or the same question. So that'll give us the opportunity to address those in a future Cookie Bites or a future cookie or fall product training. So please don't hesitate one bit when asking a question.
Yep. So, and then thank you for being here. We appreciate you and everything that you do for Girl Scouts.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Have a great day.